can't even count how often I heard this sentence in my life. However, I think it's not true. I think feel is absolutely learnable. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you feel. Let's go. Everybody, welcome back to another video. Now, before we get into today's topic, I need to get two things out of the way real quick. So first off, if you're a fan of this channel, please subscribe and click the bell icon. It helps out the channel, and if you want to learn that style of playing that you just heard, my style of soloing, that's totally learnable with my melodic soloing guitar course. I linked it in the description down below, and it deals with all things melodic soloing. Now, let's get into feel. Why do so many people think that you either have feel or you don't, or you're either born with it or you're not? Because I always thought that this is not true. I guess the problem is that feel is undefinable. When we talk about the feel of Jimmy Page, the feel of Eric Clapton, the feel of Eddie Van Halen, we can't really describe what it is. However, what we absolutely can do is train the skills that are the foundation to play with soul, with feel. These skills are definitely learnable, and it's actually 3 in total, in my opinion, and that's what I'm going to show you now. The first skill that really enables you to play with feel is space, leaving space or filling that space. So for instance, let's take the melody that we started this video with. It basically consists of these chords. An A power chord, like a G, a D, an F, and a G again. So in total, that's 4 chords, right? And if we only played the chords, we would leave a lot of space. And I would argue too much space to play this with feel. So if we just play the bare chords, that's hardly playing with feel, right? Where feel comes into play is now filling some of these gaps, some of the space between the chords to make it sound more tasty. So when I go from playing bare chords to this now, about you, but I can hear a lot more feel in that, and that's because there's an underlying skill here, and the skill is to know where to leave space and where to fill up that space with a melody or a cool line. Now, I got a cool little example for you how you can practice this. So let's stay with these chords since we're already in that song. Here's a cool connection that you can use and practice. Let's use 9-7-5 on the G string. Really simple. Now that's a cool way to fill up some space, but not so much that it gets too busy, you know? And then in the next step, to make it sound a little less stiff, slide into the 9. You know, that already sounds like you're playing with a lot more feel. There's more human connection to it. You're sliding into the note like you would with a vocal, you know? And that is one of the main drivers of feel. The second skill that we need to play with more feel is dynamics. And specifically what I mean is having control over how quiet or how loud you're playing each note. Let me show you this example. I'm going to play the opening lick again, and I want you to focus on which notes are played loud and which notes are actually super quiet. Did you hear that? There's a couple of notes in there that are very, very succinct, very loudly played. And there are other notes that are just in the background, really fading away. And that is a human element in guitar playing that a lot of people like to listen to. And these kinds of dynamics are totally learnable. Now, how do we decide which notes we need to play loud and which notes we should play quiet? Here's an analogy that I often use. Your chords are your plateaus on a journey. You go up, you go down, but there's different plateaus where you stay, and those are the chords. And the lines or the melodies you play in between, these are the bridges. And 9 times out of 10, the chords or the plateaus are more important than the bridges leading to them. So obviously, we should focus on playing the chords in a very succinct manner, and then these little lines we put in between, they can be a little bit quieter. That's at least how my approach with this riff is. See, this is way quieter than the, and the, you know, these two chords are way louder, so. So these embellishments up here are never the loudest notes. They're just there to give some color and a little bit more, you know, a little bit more flavor. But the most important things are the bass notes here. Because the bass notes really lead the riff. The lines in between, they can kind of fade away into the background. And that is something you can actively train. Actively train this by thinking about your riffs or your licks like plateaus and bridges. So pretty much building blocks and connectors between these blocks. That really makes it easy to decide what needs to be, you know, front and center of your riff and what can stay a little bit in the background. And that ultimately contributes to how soulful or with how much feel you can play, because feel is always measured by your ability to play dynamically. So volume changes, super important. You can either control that with your picking hand or you can just roll down the volume. I do both depending on what I'm doing. So practice this. Use either the lick that I just showed you or just use a couple chords. And here is the third skill we absolutely need to train to play with more feel, and that is your touch and your vibrato. Specifically, what I mean when I talk about touch is how I'm touching the strings with my picking hand. So focus on my picking hand here when I play it again. Now, as you can see, I'm not only using my pick, I'm also using my fingers. And I did that consciously because when I'm playing only with the pick, this riff sounds like this. Which, for my taste, was too aggressive. If I want to bring out, you know, the vulnerable feel with this riff, I need to play with the fingers just a little bit to make it sound a little bit more mellow, a little bit more round. Also, you may notice that I'm not playing, plucking all the strings at the same time. I'm kind of doing an arpeggio, but a really fast one, like. Definitely contributing to the feel of your playing when you're experimenting with the touch sensitivity of your hand, pretty much. So that's definitely something you can try too. So check out different sounds with your fingers or different picks and how hard you're picking. How aggressive do you want it to sound? This is all part of your feel, and this can definitely be trained. Now, the other part of touch is the fretting hand, and with the fretting hand, you can decide how much you wiggle and put your personal DNA into a certain melody by using vibrato. So let's get back to the first example that we used when we played the 975 example on the G string. Now, instead of playing this now, let's use the 9 and really wiggle the 9 every time we play this. Notice the difference? That is part of your feel. Could be fast, could be slow. Whatever it is, that is part of your feel, and that is part of playing soulful music. So using vibrato not only to play big bends, but also to really get into the nuances of a certain melody or riff definitely makes sense if you want to play with more feel. Where are the notes where you want to use vibrato? Think of these things actively when you play a riff. The more you do it, the more it becomes natural. Definitely a learnable, trainable skill. And those have been 3 trainable skills that enable you to play with more feel. I hope you learned something, and I hope you use these exercises to your advantage because they really, really improve your playing. I hope you liked this video, and I hope you learned something. If you did, give me a like, subscribe to the channel. I do that stuff all the time. Click the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. And if you want to go any deeper than that and you like these styles of lessons with me, check out my guitar courses because that's exactly what we do in there all the time. Link is in the description. I hope I see you in the next video. Bye.